everyone. I was inspired to come into my kitchen and cook something today, and that's because there are now 2 people in my family besides me, on or moving towards a proper human diet. So as many of you know, my son went keto back in February to try to work on some symptoms of ADHD. And if you want to know how that's going, I have several other videos on my channel. But my husband now says he is going to move towards low carb. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. So I decided that today what I'm going to make is a rolled meatloaf. And I've made meatloaf before, but I've never done a rolled one. And this recipe for the actual meat part of the meatloaf is a touch different. So I'm going to be putting in 2 pounds of ground meat. And what I have is a pound of ground beef, which is right here, and a pound of ground pork, which is right here. Now, both of these pounds of meat are from wild pastures, and I don't usually get my beef from there, or I don't always get my beef from there, usually from the grocery store, although my half cow is almost ready to be in my freezer, so I'm very excited about that. More to come on that. Lots of updates, guys. But the ground pork, anytime I do like pork or chicken, I try to buy pasture-raised pork and chicken. Now, the exception in this recipe is going to be this bacon that I have, which is not pasture-raised. It's just regular bacon. You can use whatever bacon you like, though. Like if you have a good sugar-free brand that you like, whatever it is, whatever bacon will do. I'm going to be using 2 eggs, and I personally spring for the pasture-raised eggs because when I interviewed the pasture-raised egg farmer, I learned what a huge nutritional difference it makes in the yolks, and so I've just decided that for me and my family, we're going to go this route. I'm going to be using a little bit of heavy cream, and this brand is called Clover. I don't know if it's everywhere, but we have it here in California. The ingredient is cream. So there's no gums, there's no carrageenan, which is used in labs, by the way, to create cancer when they want to study cancer. So I don't like to eat any. So a bit expensive, but just cream in this one. I'm going to use a little bit of the Dijon mustard. Feel free to leave this out if you do not include mustard. I am going to use 2 different kinds of Redmond salt. So I'm going to be using the Redmond real salt and the Redmond smoked salt, which is the hickory smoked salt. I've heard from you guys about other flavors that you guys like, but this is the first one I tried and I like it so much I'm like scared to try a different one. Like not scared, but just, I know I like this one. So this is the one I usually go with. I think this is my 3rd bag. Oh, there's my oven. Speaking of things I'm doing for this recipe, your oven needs to be at 375 degrees. So mine is now ready to go. And my final ingredient is these Porking Good pork rinds. And this time I am using the unseasoned. So this is basically just pork rinds cooked in pork fat. That's it. So no seasoning or anything like that in here. But this takes the place of any breadcrumbs that would be in a traditional meatloaf type of recipe. So I'm going to put a link below in the description for these, and I believe that link will save you some money. I forget the percentage, but I'll put that link down below. And I've heard that they now carry these pork rinds at Walmart, although I have not checked my Walmarts in California, and I don't know if they carry the crumbs. I'm a little bit lazy, and I prefer not to grind my own, but you can always grab your favorite pork rinds, throw them in a blender, and grind them up to make these yourself. Okay, so those are my ingredients. I'm going to move the camera over now and show you guys how I put this all together. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so in my favorite bowl, my grandmother's bowl, I have the pound of beef and the pound of pork. One thing I notice about the pasture-raised pork is that it's a lot pinker than traditionally raised pork. But what I'm going to do is just get my hands in there and mix the 2 meats together to kind of a ton. I just kind of wanted to get the pork and the beef mixed up. Now the next thing that I'm going to add to this is my 2 pasture-raised eggs. These eggs will act as a binder to help hold the meat together. So there we go, 1, 2. And I'm also going to add about 1/3 cup of the pork rinds. Now, I'm not going to measure these because I just have a little bit left in my container, and I'm just going to use it up like that. But what I would do, if I was measuring them in a measuring cup, the pork rind crumbs will pack kind of like brown sugar. You don't want to pack them down. You just kind of want to loosely measure them in the measuring cup. So that's about 1/3 cup, I would say. And then to that, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of the heavy cream. Then I'm going to add in about 1 tablespoon of the Dijon mustard. And then finally, I'm going to add in the 2 types of salt. So I'm going to try, never really done this before, but I know that my pork rind crumbs were not seasoned. So I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of the Redmond salt, the fine sea salt, ancient sea salt. And then just for a little bit of smokiness, 1 teaspoon of the Redmond smoked hickory salt. Because that's basically the only type of seasoning that's going in. Now the bacon is salty, and I am going to be putting the bacon on top of this. But anyway, now that we've got all of our other stuff, the binders and such, we're going to get my hands back in here and mix this up. Now you do not want to overmix this at all. If you overmix your meatloaf, it will be tough. So pro tip, don't overmix. Just get everything sort of incorporated throughout as best as you good. Now, I'm going to bring over my baking pan. I'm not actually going to bake this on here, but I'm going to form this on here. Oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you guys about the most important ingredient, which is some cheese, but I'll get to that in a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this meat. I lined this pan with foil. Again, I'm not baking it on here. This is just for forming the meat. So this is just, I don't know the size of this pan, but it's the biggest one I have as far as with the edges on here. So I'm going to press this down using the edges of the pan as a guide into a rectangle. You need it to stay together when you're going to go through the rolling process. You don't have to use foil. You could use saran wrap as well. Okay, I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to go get that other ingredient and I'll be back. Okay, so here is my other ingredient. I'm using just some sliced mozzarella cheese. I think the pre-sliced is easiest, although maybe you could even do it shredded. You would like want to shred your own, but the ingredients in this are just pasteurized parts skim milk, cheese, culture, salt, and enzymes. And my son likes mozzarella. I kicked back and forth the idea of using Colby, Jack, but I settled on mozzarella. So what I'm going to do is take this cheese. Now, this is just from Walmart, and let me tell you, they have stopped putting those little papers between the cheese. So it makes it very frustrating sometimes. Oh, that one was not super bad. But yeah, the little papers that separate the slices of cheese, they stopped using those. So it can make the cheese difficult to separate. But I'm going to take these little squares of cheese and lay them out here on top of this meat rectangle. The nice thing about this is if the cheese tears, it's not a big deal because you're putting them in here and they're just going to melt. And step is where we're actually going to roll this up. So I'm going to turn this way because you want to roll it from the short end. And this is why you have the foil or the plastic wrap or whatever you chose to use, parchment or whatever, because you need to pick up the end and kind of get it going. And you kind of roll the meat and then remove the foil as you go. Roll the meat, remove the foil. Sorry, I know that's probably crinkling over my talking. Roll the meat, crinkle, crinkle, remove the foil. Roll the meat. And one more time till that seam is on the bottom, and then it makes this log of meat. Looks cool. I don't know if you can see the end. That's what it looks like from the end, okay? Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna seal up the ends by just kind of pressing the meat together. The reason for this is I don't want any cheese leaking out. Now, I almost did something, you guys. I almost made some bacon crumbles and put bacon crumbles in the middle with that cheese. I almost did it. The reason I didn't is because my husband voted for plain, and I'm mostly making this for my husband and son. He voted for plain, and my son doesn't really like bacon. Like when he eats his piece, I am going to put bacon on the top. He'll probably pick that part off. I'll eat it, or my husband will eat it. But he's okay with it if it's finely chopped inside of stuff. But I just thought, well, hubby said no bacon inside. Son doesn't really like bacon. That's how I'm going to do it. But let me know in the comments if you want me to make it with bacon in the middle, or if you try it with bacon in the middle. I thought cream cheese in the middle with bacon would be fantastic. So if you try that, let me know. I think maybe I'll try that next because I would full on eat that. Anyway, so we've got this log of meat, and I'm not going to bake it in that tray. I'm just going to bake it in this, just a Pyrex casserole dish. So I'm going to transfer the rolled meatloaf into this casserole dish. Again, you want the seam side to be down. And that's it. Last step, bacon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these bacon slices, wrap them around, and tuck them under the bottom. So I don't know how many bacon slices this will take, but I'm basically just like touching one edge of the bacon to the other edge of the bacon, lifting up, and making sure that it's wrapped under the bottom. Little extra bacony smokiness. Yum. On 375 for 1 hour. Let it cool down a little bit. I will cut this open and give this a taste for you guys so you can see if this is something you might like to try. Everyone, it's been well over an hour. My meatloaf was in the oven for about an hour, and then I let it cool for longer than I anticipated. I just went live with DC. I noticed he was live shortly after I put my meatloaf in the oven, and it was like an open mic type of deal, so I hopped on there. Talked a lot about Zach and his ADHD, so if you're interested, go check that out. It's in my live tab on my channel. It was a lot of fun, but anyway, so the meatloaf cooled off longer than I intended, maybe about 40 minutes. I was thinking maybe 20, but anyways, it looks really good. So this is what it looks like, although I cut off the end already, but this is what it looks like after it's come out of the oven. And I have sliced off a piece and I've laid it on its side because I wanted to show you the cheese in the middle. I really don't know if you can see that. And it's not like orange. If it was like cheddar or something, it'd be orange and easy to see, but it's definitely like a swirl of cheese throughout the meatloaf, which is super cool. I wanted to say that this recipe is very, very customizable as far as what you want to put in the middle. So you could change up the type of cheese. You could add other things like I had said earlier, some chopped up bacon or things like that. And if you are keto or ketovore, you could put in whatever veg you might like into that middle part. So I think it's quite actually versatile and customizable. Next time, I think I'm going to make it with cream cheese and bacon in the middle because that just sounds delicious. But for right now, I'm going to grab a fork. I'm going to give this a taste and we're going to see how it is. I will give you my review. I have my fork now. I usually have one ready, but let's give this a little taste. All right, I made sure to get some bacon, a little cheese, and the meat. It's very moist, very juicy too. Oh, wow. My husband's sitting over there. He is in for a treat. This is really good. And I think my son's gonna enjoy it as well. You guys give this a try. This turned out even better than my original meatloaf, which I thought was very good. I think it's the extra moisture from the little bit of mustard and the heavy cream that really gives it that extra moistness to it. And I don't know, maybe the rolling might have something to do with it. I don't know. I'm not a cook or a chef, but this is really good. If you give this a try, let me know down in the comments how it went because I'd love to hear. So now I guess there's nothing left for me to do but go and meet some wellness, one delicious slice of rolled meatloaf at a time. Bye, everybody.